Are we ready for that? Does anybody wish to speak? Are there any members of the public that wish to speak to the final county supervisory district plan? Anyone wish to speak? Nobody contacted you ahead of time? Does anyone wish to speak to the final county supervisory district plan? Anyone? Okay.
No.
Okay, I'm gonna, we'll move into the, move on to Pledge of Allegiance and prayer by Supervisor Mastelier. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Let's try this. Okay, fellow supervisors, this evening we're going to discuss a number of items. Some of them we may agree on, some we may not agree on. And as we debate these items, let us remember that these are just items that we're going to, that reflect the future of the county. It is not the here and now. It is not our personal opinion. We have to do what is right for the county. And I'm sure we'll all agree that what we believe is right for the county. When all is said and done, let us all agree that we will still be friends and neighbors and that we will still be able to talk to each other. With this in mind, I ask your help, Lord, and may all of us get along well this evening. Amen.
Okay, would roll call Supervisor Swaggle and Dell fashionably late. For Dell, fashionably late as usual. But at least he's fashionable about it, so it's okay. Supervisor Wokos, I have not heard from. Supervisor Kroll had asked to be excused. So I will, before I ask for a motion to approve the agenda, you obviously, yes, sir?
Supervisor Wokus, I called him yesterday. He's having surgery Thursday, so he could not come because of the testing last week. If you can call him, that's where he is. Please.
All right,
And then
hopefully,
surgery on Thursday. Thank you.
hopefully nothing too serious.
I didn't ask him.
Yeah, well, you're not, that'd be a HIPAA violation to ask, I suppose. You have a box before you, a little device. Supervisors who are new, these are new to you. Supervisors who have been here a while, these are a return to the old way of doing things. So this is how we will vote this evening on resolutions. And did you want to give the explanation, or you trust me to do it right?
I trust you.
Okay, so when there is a resolution and I tell you that we are ready for you to record your vote, you will push yes, or you will push no, or you could abstain, even. So, and they need to push confirm after? No.
No.
Just push yes, no, or abstain, and wait until you get the all clear that we're ready for you to record your vote. So these boxes that you have before you, you do need to still have them green when you speak, but we will not be using those to record your votes this evening, or I believe any evening in the future. So we're going back to the old. Old is better in this case. All right, so I would look for a motion to approve the agenda. Supervisor Yonke, second by Haskey. Any discussion of the agenda, corrections? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Would look for a motion to approve the minutes from the previous meeting. Supervisor Kinnard, second by Supervisor Swaggle. Are there any corrections or discussion on the minutes which you have reviewed? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Citizens input.
Tracy Nolenberg.
And the microphone is on, I see.
Just talking to him?
Yep.
So good evening. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Tracy Nolenberg. I am the Emergency Management Director for Kewaunee County. Tonight, I'm here to ask for support in the 2022 budget for the Emergency Management Assistant position for the 30 hours a week, as was approved at the September 20th Executive Committee meeting. Each county is required by state statute to have an emergency management program. State and federal funding is tied to a plan of work. The main components of that plan of work are preparing and maintaining plans for the response and recovery from natural, technological, and man-made disasters, providing emergency management related training to community partners as well as the community. This may involve sponsoring state or national training courses or conducting the training ourselves. Public outreach is a large part of emergency management. We are required to conduct public awareness campaigns throughout the year. In addition, we speak to community groups, distribute brochures, and utilize social media to promote a culture of preparedness. We participate in or facilitate disaster exercises or drills. Disasters are not a common occurrence, so drills and exercises are utilized to test plans, equipment, and personnel. And we also respond to emergency situations as requested. So that was just some of the stuff that our office does under the Emergency Management Performance Grant. We also have things we do under the Emergency Planning Community Right to Know Act, as well as things we do for Point Beach. With that, Kewaunee County is one of 3 counties in the state that is considered a risk county. The reason we are a risk county is because the lower portion of Kewaunee County is in their 10-mile emergency planning zone. The information that I placed in front of you just gives you an overview of the tasks performed in the office, along with the job description of the emergency management assistant. 30 hours had been approved at the executive committee meeting on September 20th. The finance meeting changed that budget line to be at 27.5 hours at their October 19th meeting. I know other departments have talked over the time about the cost of a new employee to their office. Our office is no different. Again, with us having, we have emergency management performance grant funded personnel required training that they must do in the first 2 to 3 years. Of that training, that includes 12 online courses ranging anywhere from 2 to 8 hours a course, along with 64 in-class room hours. Now, while that training is free, travel accommodations and their time is not free. With the way that things are going on in the country right now, do we want to be underprepared for situations that may arise by minimizing in the preparedness and training? So again, I just want to ask you to support in the 2022 budget for the emergency management position to be budgeted for 30 hours a week as it was approved at the September 20th Executive Committee meeting. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak? No one else has contacted you. Does anyone else wish to speak? Does anyone else wish to speak to the board? Okay. Appointments, there are none. Jail project. You will note that the way that this is listed is pretty wide open. The jail study committee did bring forward pass a motion with the recommendation that we would go to phase 3 of the jail project. There was much discussion, of course, on the project. Should be noted, I know that there were questions, there were some feelings by supervisors wondering if the project could be taken on without going to referendum, simply do the entire project. the building and the staffing. However, to accommodate that, to accomplish that, you would have to be within levy limits. I had discussed with Mr. Felt the possibility of finding 4, possibly 5 positions. We felt that that might be possible. However, the Sheriff's Department has met since our last board meeting and reviewed staffing of the new jail. And they have stated that they need 8 additional positions. So that is not something that we can find within the current budget, or at least my conversations with Mr. Felt did not feel that we could find that, at least not without some pretty significant pain. I had thrown out the suggestion of trying to move the sheriff's offices if we were to find a project that would be suitable, that we would build the sheriff's offices with the jail, so that perhaps during first shift, Monday through Friday, we could reduce the amount of jail staffing, that we could increase some efficiencies, but the Sheriff's Department felt that that would still not be possible, that they would need 8 additional positions, plus also some additional support staff for kitchen and possibly laundry. So that having been said, so what the committee talked about is that to go forward, that you would be looking at the likelihood of a November referendum a year from now. And obviously the board could, if you chose to, the board could certainly still vote to approve the building, the construction, but then you would have the building and you would have to find the staffing, and you would have to go to referendum for that, at least, unless we were going to make some really significant cuts somewhere that I don't know that the board would be comfortable with, and I don't even know what that would look like. So we would recommend, or the committee felt that the next logical step would be to go to phase 3 with the likelihood, anticipation that you would go to referendum in November. So if we have a motion or if we have questions, yes, sir, Supervisor Vollenweider.
So I guess it's been the understanding that since the beginning that it was going to be an annual additional cost of $1 million to operate the jail with 4 additional positions. What's the cost going to be then operationally per year if there's 8? Is it going to be $2 million a year then to operate?
Mr. Felt or Paul, do you have an estimate on that?
We do not have an estimate specifically of 8 staff. What we would look at right now as kind of a thumbnail sketch is if you're looking at a jailer or dispatcher starting off at roughly about $21 an hour, $22 an hour, plus full benefits, that's usually $80,000 and some change per position, but that would be in year 1. As time goes on, those personnel costs would go up. As health insurance costs go up, as salary and wages go up. So you would then be looking at, let's call it over a number of years, $100,000 a position. But then what we're also looking at is beyond just salaries and wages. You're looking that this is a larger facility, which will be more expensive to heat. You'll have parking lots that will need to be plowed. You will have grass that needs to be mowed. You will have janitorial that will need to be performed. So there's a number of things in there. And I guess probably the most difficult part is we do not yet know what the design of the jail would be. And so therefore, some of those costs are a little bit difficult to predict at this present time. And I'm sorry, I'm going to go slightly off on an aside, Supervisor Vollenweider. I think one of the most important things that this board could do tonight is to move forward and approve for phase 3, because phase 3 will help to give the board a clearer picture as to what would the facility look like, and therefore be able to give us a better idea as to what it may cost to maintain, what it may cost to staff.
So while I don't disagree with that, I'm just curious how we suddenly had to have a doubling the staff size. I mean, we've talked
Well-
about facilities around the state that are similar in beds in scope. And we were always at 4 people and now we're at 8. I'm just curious how that
Well,
happened.
The current staffing, the way it operates currently is you have a jailer and you have a dispatch, and one backs up the other. So somebody can jump in if I'm incorrect on any of this, but I'm pretty sure that's what's been explained. Sheriff, I'm all wrong already? No.
Sheriff, why don't
I
you
was
come
pretty
up
sure-
and do it that
I
way?
was pretty sure I had that part right.
So, no, great question, Jeff. And so what it is, Jeff, is how do you share?
I keep thinking I speak loud enough. The numbers haven't changed. If we actually go back to the March of 2020 book that John Kane had provided, you're going to see the staffing analysis between those 4 options. We were always talking about options 1 all the way through 7. That one was always 4 posts. So we have to be very clear. So even last month, I was sitting back there and I could see that there was going to be this kind of confusion because we're talking about 4 posts. And you're right, typical jails, we just did Calumet County's tour. They run the same thing. They run 3 in the jail. Our only addition is dispatch. They have an entirely different department that has another 12 people. We're of course blending that in to find efficiencies. So the numbers always have been, and they continue to be 4 posts. But in order to run those 4 posts on a 24/7 operation, that's where the increase of 8 staff come in. And they have been part of that equation. So if we go back to that book, the costs were around $700,000 at the time. We rounded up for all those other operational costs. So that operating cost generally of that $1 million, that's still solid. All right. That was solid then and it's solid now. So I just want to clarify some of that confusion where we're talking about 4 positions last month. It's 4 posts. We've got master control, booking, pod, and then we've got that dispatch position that we are very unique because we're going to float booking, and that's a lot of our discussion. I give these guys a lot of credit, a lot of discussion about how can we float positions to try to find the maximum efficiency on the actual persons, the bodies, right? So that's the conversation that really we're in the midst of. So I hope that clarifies things.
Sure. So we're not actually increasing that $1 million ballpark figure. We're just clarifying the posts into personnel
Correct.
being 8, but the scope of the dollars for operational costs is still in the same ballpark.
Well, that's the number that was used again, March of 2020. So as Administrator Feld said, we need to move forward to really refine those because we need to get the floor plan. We need to get operational costs. We need to really lay this building out so we can maximize that staffing efficiency. And that's where there may be some wiggle room in that number. But again, we have to get to phase 3 to be able to refine those numbers and see what we're looking at. So I hope that helps.
Thank you.
But those numbers, those posts are not going to change. I mean, no matter what. I mean, going into phase 3, the sheriff's department is stating that they need 4 posts. They need a jail master control.
Yeah.
They need a floating jailer, and then they need a booking officer. And then they need a dispatch.
Post.
And, post.
Yeah.
And they need those 24/7, 365 days a year.
Absolutely. No, you are absolutely correct. And again, when we look at other facilities similar, they're all running the same. The only thing different is the fact that we're still trying to maintain that slight blend. While we don't want to stay with jailer dispatchers, we also don't want to create an entirely new department where you're going to have another, set of staff, which would balloon that number even more. So we're still trying to keep that relationship as far as communications dispatch into the mix. And if we lay it out right, to try to find some efficiencies in how we float those. But yeah, the chair is absolutely right. We need in a jail setting, those 3 posts, and then we're tackling communications within this project. So I hope everybody can appreciate how efficient this is, this approach to this compared to other counties where they're separating these out completely, which would add, significant numbers of staff on either side. We're still trying to maintaining some blend.
But among those 4 posts, going from 2 posts to 4 posts, so the 2 current to 4. One of the posts is a full-time booking officer. We have roughly, or we have not roughly, we have, if you average it out, granted you can't average it out because bookings, ebb and flow, but 1.4 per day. And how are the bookings done currently with just the 2? How do we do booking currently?
Because that one jailer does everything. But of course, now we're going to have dedicated master control. When you see the layout of it, they are parked in master control for the sole purpose of oversight. So we can't, pull them and say, hey, go book somebody in. So we have to really take what we've been doing for the last 50 years and be very cautious that we bring any of that forward, because we've been told time and time again, it's a ticking time bomb, right? That's why we embarked upon this entire project. So we really need to turn the page and say what we're doing now, not relevant. And we need to look at moving forward, not to say we shouldn't be as efficient as we can be. And that's why what you mentioned about the booking, you're right, that we're not constantly booking people in. So in other agencies, they've got those 3 dedicated 24/7, master, pod, and booking. But what we're saying, and we're recognizing, we're not booking people in all the time. So let's go ahead and float that booking over to dispatch. Because in other counties, they've got 2 dedicated 24/7. So we're only going to have 1 dedicated 24/7 dispatch and try to make use of that ability to be versatile, right, and flexible. So that's exactly right. We're looking at these and saying, you know what, let's be realistic. These aren't going on 24/7. So let's really try to find the most efficiencies we can. What we want to hesitate in doing is screening it back so far that we're operating in crisis mode the day we open the doors. Now, I just got, retirement notice or 2 resignation notices. We got FMLA issues. We're always down staff. So even if we get the 8, the chances are we're never operating with 8. I've been a sheriff for 15 years. We've never been at full staff. So we have to be careful not to screen this back so far the minute we open the door that we're operating crisis mode. I mean, we're already going to have contingency plans for what ifs, but we don't want the what ifs to be our baseline of operations, because then when we start getting FMLAs and resignations, we're in a bad place. So that's where we have to find that sweet spot. And again, I appreciate everybody's work in diligence in trying to find that balance, because it really is a balance.
Questions? Supervisor Dell.
Maybe somebody can clear this up for me. You started a new committee, jail committee, and that jail committee went and looked forward towards a smaller jail. Am I right?
We were able to find, we were able to reduce the size, and we were able to find $3 million in savings, correct?
Okay. So is this phase 3 all going to be towards that, not phase 3 that we were doing before?
Supervisor Baker, you want to try to explain that one, or you want me to try to?
Well, as I understand it, phase 3 will actually finalize the design of the new jail. So this is going to be it when phase 3 is done, so that when we move on to the next phase, after we get permission to go ahead, that would actually be now construction drawings. So there wouldn't be any more negotiation about what the layout would be.
Does that answer your question, Supervisor?
So phase 3 is going to actually get into the drawings, and your committee decided to make it smaller to save money, which is a good thing. And so you're going to recommend that towards this for phase 3.
Yes.
And if they do agree with it, then you're going to start making the plans according to that. Is that price on phase 3 going to stand as it was last time? Is that
No.
the same price
No.
with this architect?
Yeah, go ahead. Mr. Bell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'll try to, the original plan was roughly about 45,700 square feet. With the subcommittee's work, the footprint of the facility was reduced by 7,000 square feet to approximately 38,700 square feet, which saved approximately about $3 million. So if we were to move forward with phase 3, phase 3 would be looking at that 38,700 square foot footprint and trying to design a facility in those general parameters. Once those general parameters and phase 3 has been completed and approved, and and if the board then agrees to move forward with the project, then what would happen is then the architect would move forward with putting together construction documents, HVAC, all of those different types of floor plans. But as for the question that you were asking about, Supervisor Dell, I know I missed one as I was talking here.
The money.
The
If
money.
there-
So the money to the architect.
Correct.
The money to the architect would be more than likely reduced, not for phase three. Phase three is phase three, though Venture Architects has done a little bit of that work, what I like to call phase 2.5. So he's done a little bit of that work already, but because we see the construction project possibly being lower than what it was before, phase three is a percentage of the construction project. So if the total construction project is less than what it was originally done with the first committee, then the fee to Venture Architects for phase three would also be reduced because the percentage of a lower number is a lower number. I hope that answers the question,
Yeah,
sir.
because what he went off was just the percentage.
Correct, sir.
Correct.
Thank you.
Supervisor Lukes?
Last month's meeting, there was discussion about April referendum and a November referendum.
Yes.
And the inflation costs were gonna go up
Mhm.
3 million if we waited. Where
They'll
did
go
that
up.
discussion go?
Well, the cost will go up. I mean, we gave you the sheet on what the anticipated 2023 construction costs would be. It's going up constantly. I mean,
But you said that
inflation is out
you
of
decided
control.
on the November referendum. What,
That was
I
the
can answer-
sheriff's
I can answer that.
preference, yes.
Supervisor Lucas, is the reason that we'd be looking more than likely at a November referendum is because of the timing of a referendum. So if the board had the good fortune of approving money in phase three tonight, phase three takes at least roughly about 90 days. So I'm going to kind of gin that out for you. I put November and December together as 1 month because of holidays. And then you have January, then you have February. Yes, you have March and there's an April election, but to do a referendum question, you would have to have that done prior to January I'm sorry? You'd have to have it done by January 25th to be on the April ballot. And phase three will not have been completed. We would not be able to give you what the cost would be. So therefore, we would not be able to give an accurate number for the public. The last thing that I would recommend to this board is that we spitball a number and that we then put it out to the public. So that's why it would more than likely go to November, if the board were to decide to go to referendum.
Although you certainly could. I mean, if the board really wanted to go for April referendum, you could certainly do that. I mean, you just wouldn't have those precise figures.
Correct.
So that was the reason. Any other questions? Supervisor Augustine?
Back to phase three and the staffing. If we go to phase three, it helps with the layout plans and helps with the staffing number. The number 4, I guess I was under the impression all along, but if the operating costs are still at $1 million for 8 positions, are we confident that it's only going to be 8 positions? Or once we get this jail laid out, is there a possibility that we come back and say, okay, we need 10? And then what are we going to do if we got to add 2 more positions?
I'm not going to speak specifically for the sheriff and operations, but I'll say it first this way. The design of the facility is going to tell us a great deal about the operation of the facility, in that depending on where they're located, where those different posts are located, and the operation of the jail will have a significant effect on how many staff or positions will be needed. And if I may, I'm going to take some liberty here. Every jail has 3 posts. They all have a master control, they all have a pod, and they all have a booking post. Those are posts. That's different than people that man those posts. So we've always had those posts, and then if you add dispatch, that's the 4th post. So we've always had 4 posts. But to get back to your concern, Supervisor Augustine, is with the design of the facility, depending on how that could be laid out, that could have a significant effect as to whether 8 is needed, whether 10 is needed, whether 6 is needed. And the other caveat that has to come into this, and we have to be careful about this, is that we also need to be providing an operational plan that will meet the approval of the jail inspector. Now, I want to do another slight caveat. The state does not dictate the number of staff, but they do dictate how a facility is operated. And so while they may not say you have to have 8 staff, they will say you must do these things.
But
And
it's,
yeah, I understand that.
but it's very clear. I will, let me add, very clear from the meeting we had on Friday, Supervisor Poppy or Baker can jump in. It will not be less than 8 positions. I mean, it will, I had suggested, the possibility of during certain hours using on-call. I had suggested that we put the sheriff's offices there. And so that Monday through Friday, first shift, we would have, there would be lieutenant, there would be, other sheriff's staff that would be in the building to Monday through Friday, first shift, that we could possibly reduce that number, but that is felt that will not happen. So that number is not going to be 4 to 5. It's not going to be 7. It's not going to be 7.5. It's
But from understanding what
the-
Scott just explained, there is possibly ways in phase number 3 that we could tweak the operational side of things to make some numbers work if we absolutely have to.
All I'm going to say, Supervisor Augustine, is it possible? It may be possible. The most important part that we need to do now is conduct and complete phase 3. And through that design process, we will have a very good understanding as to what the staffing needs would be, what we can do, what we can't do, what will work, what will not work. So I'm a little hesitant about saying, and Sheriff and I have slight disagreements, is I'm not going to say that 8 is absolute, but I'm also not going to say that it's not the right number. All I'm saying is that we really can't tell until we have the design. And I know that sounds like a cop-out, but it's really the truth.
Well, I'm going to say that the sheriff and the jail inspector will find anything less than 8 to be unacceptable. I mean, I'm not overstating that, am I?
No, not at all. And I think what you need to
There you are.
realize is most facilities is actually doing that. In most facilities, it's actually a greater number because they've got shift supervisors. So if you go to most of these facilities, even went to Calumet, they've got a shift sergeant. That's an additional one. Again, we're doing everything we can. Our sergeants are going to be working line. Our sergeants are going to be in the mix. So we're doing everything we can to take these other county models and say, yeah, we can't even do that. We're going to be streamlined even tighter. So I can tell you that 4 posts. Basically 24/7. Now, yeah, we're going to be using, Pod Rove as master control's backup because these are human beings. So we realize there's going to have to be somebody that backs up master. We're going to realize that we're going to use booking to back up dispatch. So you have to look at it in the form of the 2 absolute constants are master and dispatch in Kewaunee County, right? These other 2, what we're just trying to do is float them back and forth to supplement those 2 completes. We can't sacrifice that because if we do have a human element that takes place, now what? And I would love to be able to run over here and take care of it. And I will definitely be part of that contingency plan, but I don't think you could pluck me, the chief deputy, or our lieutenants as a constant, as a pod or a master control. It's just not realistic. These are some things that we'll definitely be putting into our operational plans as contingencies and ways that we can respond, but not a baseline operational model. And anybody that's worked in or runs a 24/7 operation, I hope you can appreciate that you've got to have your solids. You can always try to grab some things for what ifs, but don't use those what ifs as your baseline operational model. But again, we're going to work together and guarantee you that this will be about as streamlined as any county has been.
Any other questions? Supervisor Yonke,
I motion we go to phase 3.
motion to move to phase 3. Supervisor Baker, second. Any further discussion? All right, we're gonna register our votes on these. Sorry, you were so riveted by the discussion that You weren't thinking it was going to come this quickly. Okay, you can register your votes. They're not up on the screen though. Oh. Why is mine not showing? There we go. Yes, then confirm. Or no, then confirm. Or abstain, then confirm. Mine had to have the confirm.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, we forgot about the battery pauses that we have with these. Okay, we have 18, right? 18 in favor, or 17 in favor, 1 opposed, motion carries. Annual reports and other reports. Mr. Felt.
For the sake of brevity for tonight, I have none.
Okay, we'll go to committee reports. I'm going to, for the sake of allowing ample time for budget discussion, I'm going to take all of the reports together. Are there any questions on any of the reports that you have received? A through L. Oh, Supervisor Teske. Yes.
I have a question on the finance minutes dated October 19th in regard to the emergency management administrative assistant from 20 hours to 30 hours. The executive committee had voted to grant the 30 hours per week. And now it just seems that at the finance meeting, that position was just kind of pulled into the discussion. And why did the finance committee go over the executive committee?
Finance, no, go ahead, otherwise.
Certainly. Supervisor Teske, with regarding the county budget process, there are 2 committees that are integral into the creation and formation of the budget. The executive committee has the sole authority as to the number of staff that are allocated, as well as the wages and salaries of any staff. So the executive committee could decide that the administrator's office needs 5 more people. And that is completely within their authority to do so. The finance committee has sole authority on anything of funding within the county budget. So therefore, the finance committee could say, yes, executive committee, you said 5 people. We don't agree. We will not fund those 5 positions. Or for that matter, the executive committee says, we're not giving you any funding. And we're not giving you any positions. And the finance committee could say, we're going to give you funding for 5 more staff. That's the authority of each individual committee. One isn't necessarily, what's the right word? Overruling, thank you, overruling the other. They each have their own authority. And that's where it is then brought before the county board to then resolve that discrepancy. So and we could even look at it this way, if finance committee were to have made the decision first, and then the executive committee were to do it afterwards, that same thought of why is the executive committee overruling the finance committee? It's just timing as to who went first. The finance committee decided they only wanted to fund at 27.5 hours, and the executive committee decided that they wanted the position staffed at 30 hours. The county board will make that decision here tonight.
If it was the 27.5 hours, if it had to do with the health and dental insurance, how do you know that employee would even take health and dental?
We don't know, but from a budgetary standpoint, what you do is you budget assuming that they will. Because if it's offered, the last thing you want to do is put in a budget and not have it there, nor can you ask an employee whether they're going to take, you can't say, if you take this position, will you take health insurance? That would be a big HR no-no.
Any other questions? Supervisor Dell?
One quick question about bug tussle. Are all the towers up and going? Just
We do not have all the towers up and going. I know that the one in Carlton was delayed. I know that they're still trying to find a spot in Tisch Mills. Most of the one in Luxembourg is, I'm not sure if it's up and running yet, but all the others in the rural areas, my understanding, are up and running, and they have to date well over 200 subscriptions so far and counting.
I talked to the guy this afternoon and Scott, and he said that they have been very busy. Lots of people signing up. Other questions on any of the reports? Cindy, I see you're back there. Any desire to say anything on COVID? It looks like it's been very active based upon your reports, but I think if I read them correctly, perhaps slowing a bit, maybe not. I know I feel like I'm surrounded by people that suddenly keep developing.
So Friday's report was positive. Monday morning was not so positive. So we're seeing a little bit of an uptick again this week. Hopefully those cases will settle back down, but I think it's just the nature of people being indoors. We're seeing, it continue with kids and things. So it spreads to full families, and that's what we're just kind of working through. Our vaccines continue. We continue to do COVID booster shots. We have Pfizer in stock. We have finished up a public clinic for Moderna. We had done a small amount of that. We're hitting a couple of nursing home CBRF type facilities this week and next week. So we'll get that done. And we're hoping to do some children's booster shots between that 5 and 11-year-old age. Unfortunately, I was notified from the state today that they lost our order of that vaccine. Go figure. So we might be a week later than most people at that start. So we're hoping to have that in hand by maybe Monday. But otherwise, our efforts continue. And I think that a positive is that some of those cases we were seeing in the nursing homes and CBRFs are coming down. So that's good. Any specific questions on COVID?
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions on any other reports? All right, seeing none, we're going to move on. First reading of ordinance, we have none. Consideration of resolutions. You ready?
Yep.
All right.
A resolution approving the final county supervisory district plan.
Do I have a motion?
Move to approve.
Supervisor Romden, second by Supervisor Poppy. Discussion, Mr. Hanson, where did you go? Did you care to clarify anything on this? Or enlighten us, elucidate?
The only thing I want to point out, you all have this map. That's the only change from the tentative plan that you passed like a month ago. And what that is, it's one census block with 23 people. The city of Kewaunee had an older person living in that block, and it made their ward planning difficult, the aldermanic planning difficult, and they requested that we change the boundary there. So basically, that yellow area used to be part of 18. Now it's part of 20. So the orange line is what it is. So.
Are there any questions on the district plans? Any discussion of the district plans? Then we are ready. You may register your vote. There we go. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Hanson, for all of your hard work on this. You've made our job on this quite a bit easier. And I know there have been questions about, I know there's already been questions about whether or not you'll come out of retirement for the next go round. And I don't know if you've given an answer on that yet. But I'm sure you'll consider that in 10 years. All right, moving on. Next resolution.
A resolution in opposition to Assembly Bill 605.
I have a motion. Supervisor Augustine. Is there a second? Supervisor Lozansky. Discussion? You may register your vote. Stephen, Supervisor Agamite, you're, there you go. Motion. Oh, sorry, go. Motion carries. Whenever you're, as soon as you're ready for the next resolution. Take your time, no pressure. We're all just sitting here.
A resolution approving personnel policies, vacation leave policy, jailers.
I have a motion. Supervisor Masteler, second by Vollenweider. Do we have discussion? Supervisor Swaggle.
Is this half, pretty much close to what it always was, or is this a major modification with
This
prior?
Supervisor Swagel, this is a modification. If you had looked at the previous personnel policy had for jailer dispatchers that a week's vacation was 48 hours and not 40 hours. And with the recent union contract that was approved by the county board and the union, all new hires of deputies, their vacation will be, a week's vacation will be 40 hours. In fact, their vacation schedule will mirror the vacation schedule that was for all other county employees besides deputies and jailer dispatchers. So what this change does is also change that any new jailer or dispatcher hired after January 1 of 2022 will also follow the vacation schedule of all other county employees. So it makes it all uniform across all departments regarding vacation schedule.
Thank you, sir.
Any other questions? Any other discussion? Are we prepared? You may register your vote. Supervisors. Motion carries. So as you're ready for the next resolution?
2022 budget and 2021 tax levy.
Do I have a motion to approve the budget? Supervisor Vollenweider and second by Supervisor Poppy. Discussion. Supervisor Ramdun.
I have an amendment if I may present it.
You may present it, absolutely.
It references page 110 and 119. I'm proposing to amend the proposed 2022 budget by removing the $40,000 for KCEDC from the tax levy and fund that through the Economic Development Fund. So that would reduce the levy in line item 100, 41,100 by $40,000. Would bring that down to 7,123,627. And it would add $40,000 to line item 100, 492, which would be transferred in from the Economic Development Fund. And then to offset that change in the levy, on page 119, I'm proposing to increase line item 200, 41,100 by $40,000, the amount of money that comes into the highway department from the tax levy, and reduce line item 249,202 by $40,000 to make that $100,000, and return that $40,000 back to the roads and bridges account. That would be my motion.
Could you restate that?
Jamie's got it.
Jamie, got that? Want to read that back? Okay.
You just, without the account number?
We've got it over here.
No. We've got it. We've got it. I was just giving you a hard time. Is there a second to that motion? Supervisor Lukes, is there discussion? Supervisor Vollenweider.
So my question is then when that account no longer has the funding coming in, then we would have to look at other sources to fund KCDC in the future. And when would that date be? How much time do we have left on that?
We will continue to receive payments in the amount of $500,000 from Dominion for another 5 years.
That would be my concern, is that 5 years from now, what are we going to be, doing for KCDC? I guess we could say that in the meanwhile, we were getting it off the levy, and I like the idea of what Tom is suggesting, but I just want to make sure that it isn't going to come up to be a shortfall 5 years from now, and we're going to say, oh, geez, we don't have any money.
Supervisor Baker, did you have?
My request was to kind of explain what the second half of Tom's motion was. I understood to take it out of the.
I can do that if you
Okay,
want, Mr.
thank
Chair.
you.
Certainly. Oh, go ahead, Tom. I'm sorry.
No, it was just that that $40,000 originally was on the tax levy to fund KCEDC. We would take that levy that was in KCEDC and move it to the tax levy that's applied in the highway department, and then reduce the highway transfer by $40,000.
Other questions, other discussion on that, on the amendment, only on the amendment. So any other questions on Supervisor Romden's amendment? Proceed to vote. You may register your vote.
I'm a little confused. I
wait,
would like
stop.
that restated.
Supervisor Teske? You want to restate?
In simple terms?
You want the entire thing restated? Supervisor?
Put it in simple
You don't
terms.
see account numbers or none of that stuff.
I understand you want to take it out of the,
What my proposal is to remove $40,000 from the tax levy to fund KCEDC and take that funding from the Economic Development Fund. The $40,000 that was on the levy to fund KCEDC, we would add that to the Highway Department revenue levy and remove $40,000 of money that was transferred into the budget from the roads and bridges account. So it's a net, there's no change in the levy or anything. It's just that where the money is coming from.
that part I understand.
Any other discussion? Any other questions on this amendment? Okay, we are going to register. You may register your votes on the amendment. Supervisor Teske yet? Supervisor Teske, are you having? Motion carries, or the amendment carries. So you have all of those notations, Paul?
Thank you, everyone.
Any other discussion on the original motion, which was to approve the budget, which would now be approved with the one amendment? Any other discussion on the original motion? Seeing no other questions? Yes, Supervisor Haskey.
What are we doing with the emergency government in the budget that you're asking us to pass now? The 2027 and a half, or is it done at the 30?
If the motion on the floor passes, it is in the budget at 27.5 hours. So that's what it would be. Other discussion, Supervisor Lozansky.
I feel that the emergency management assistant position should be at the 30 hours, which was originally what the executive committee had approved. It had gone down from 40 to 20 hours a while ago when I believe when Tracy was the assistant, she was at 40 hours. It just seems to me that I understand there's the money factor in there for the insurance and everything. Just from my experience of 27.5, you're just kind of giving them a slap on the hand that, you know, you've got to almost work 30, but not quite. But people know you're doing that because of the benefits. I assume there's someone in there right now at a 20-hour position. So I would be in favor of moving it back to the 30 hours.
Supervisor Vollenweider?
I guess it's my understanding that it's been a 20-hour position for a number of years, and it was 40 hours with benefits because it was split between two departments. So emergency management was getting 20 hours a week for years out of that individual. So if we're going to increase it to 27.5, that's a pretty substantial increase to that department per week. If it's later determined, maybe we need to go to 40 hours then at some point. I'm not sure, but yeah, it is close to 30, but it's still 7.5 hours more per week than they've been getting. So I'm hoping that's enough.
Any other discussion?
Hold on, as a point of order, there was a lot of discussion on Supervisor Lozansky, but I think enough was said to make that a motion. So I think
There was no motion made.
I heard
though.
moving within
I
this.
did not hear moving.
Okay,
There
then.
was no motion made. Is there further discussion? Yes, Supervisor.
Can I
Test.
make a motion?
You can make an amendment. It would be a yes.
Okay, I would make a motion to change that back to a 30-hour position for the emergency management assistant.
We have an amendment, Supervisor Teskey second. And discussion on that amendment, Supervisor Haskey.
Yes, could you tell us how much the benefits for a single or married would cost us for the other 2.5 hours that you want to add to it?
11,000.
The total of all of it was 11,740. I remember health insurance being approximately 8,000 and dental off the top of my head, it was a few hundred, but 2 to 250. Is that close enough?
Yes.
Close enough for me. Other discussion on that amendment, Supervisor Teskey.
If in this budget, if we can do a jail study, a jail site and soil survey, a jail referendum consultant, a grant writing consultant, facilities maintenance plan, an office move, I think that we can afford to put another 2.5 hours for the secretary assistant and emergency management position.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, we will proceed to vote on the amendment. Do we need we don't need it restated, I don't believe. You may register your vote. What do we got? Motion failed. So it remains at 27.5 as it is in the budget. Other discussion going back to the original motion, to pass the budget with the one amendment. Is there further discussion on that? Seeing none, we will proceed to vote on the original motion, which is to pass the budget as presented with the amendment that was approved. You may register your vote. The motion carries. Budget is adopted. Did you need a brief recess, Mr. Felt and Mr. Kunish, or not?
No, because the only amendment that changed doesn't change those numbers.
Fabulous. That makes me happy. You're doing good over there.
You have no idea, Mr. Chair.
I know you were concerned about my happiness coming into this meeting.
Mr. Chair, a comment.
Yes, absolutely, Mr.
I
Supervisor.
said this at the finance committee. I just like to share this with the rest of the board that, putting a budget together annually is a tough job. And I think Paul and Scott did a hell of a job this year in putting this budget together.
Yeah, I have to
That's all I
say,
have to
this
say.
is the, in my time on the board, I think this is or not, I don't think this is without question the smoothest budget process I've seen. And they did excellent work. I think there were some things learned from the past. And I think one of the things they did that was really helpful that I appreciated greatly is they foresaw the things that would be questioned. So they saved us the time to some extent of having to dig out all of those things and then search the answers. They presented those and explained them ahead of time. And I think that was extremely helpful in this process.
The document itself was much better put together this year. It was easier to follow.
Are you implying that they're getting better at this? That they're
doing a very good job.
If I may, Mr. Chair, part of that is honestly, that is because of the board as well. We know that before there were questions regarding fund transfers, and then there were other questions. So as the budgets continue to go year after year, we slip in an extra page here, we slip in an extra page there to help to have those questions or concerns that you may have there located within the budget. So that way there's as much transparency as possible. So again, I want to give a big thanks to all of the department heads, and yes, absolutely, Paul. And I appreciate that the budget has gone as smooth as it did. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Consideration of ordinances, we have none. Communications. We have no communications. Wow. Kewaunee County events. I can tell you there is one for sure. This coming Sunday at St. Paul Lutheran Church, there is the annual Veterans Service. It's always a big event honoring those who have served. If you are a veteran, they give you a free lunch afterwards even. I can't say it's anything I would eat. It's this, what do they call this stuff they serve all over the place here? Booyah. This is like a local thing. I mean, they take, well, I would think an MRE would be better. I mean, they take a bunch of vegetables and a very little bit of chicken and they slop it around and give it an exotic name, and people line up for this. I mean, you can put a sign up for this and people line up, but it's a great service and a great way to honor those who have served and to show our appreciation for them.
They should have raw beef along with that booyah.
Yeah. Maybe some of what's that? Kathunky, is that it? Mathunky? Mathunky? Boy, that'd just make it even better, huh? I'll be bringing a sack lunch. But we also this year, the speaker at that is the National Commander-elect of the American Legion. So think about that. Was the state commander a few years back and will be the national commander 23-24. So yeah, that's pretty exciting. Other events. Supervisor Haskell, try to follow up on that.
Yeah. Well, I passed out a sheet that East Shore Industries wanted me to pass out about a drive that they're doing at Denny Super Values to all of IGA and the Piggly Wiggly for health items, and those items will be donated back to the Violence Intervention Project and a couple other places that are in need of this stuff. So if you have any of this stuff, we look forward to you dropping in those boxes. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other events? All right. comments from the chair. You have received make sure that as you go through all of the stuff, the papers that we distribute to you from the clerk, you have an envelope here. And in that envelope, you're going to find papers to file for re-election. And those need to be, they can start to be circulated, your signatures, they can begin to be circulated on December the 1st, and they must be, so you can't start before December 1st, they must be returned January the 4th. I have greatly enjoyed serving with all of you on this board, and I would encourage all of you, especially Supervisor Dell, who's been a little squishy. I would strongly encourage you to file those papers, and Supervisor Agamite, who is new. I'm sure that you have found these meetings so exciting and riveting, and my leadership so extraordinary that you're already convinced to file, right? All right, see, yeah. But anyway, yeah, Supervisor Romden.
Just a question on the papers. Are we supposed to have the declaration of candidacy filed with you before we start circulating papers?
There is a letter in there for you this year, but so the registration should be filed prior to receiving or spending money at all. The declaration can come in with the nominations.
Okay, as long as we're not getting money.
Yeah.
So Supervisor Yonke's massive re-election war chest, he has to wait to start collecting on that before, he has to get his candidacy in before he can collect on that. Okay, I don't think that's a real issue. I don't know how much is spent on the average county supervisor races, but it's good to know. So anyway, I hope that you will consider coming back for more. The future dates, moving on to the dates for the next meeting, the clerk has just informed me. We have December 21st is our next meeting. That one is our Christmas party. We try to keep that agenda short, and you received the invitation for that. I hope that you will join us for that. I know last year Wisnicky paid for open bar. Was that? No, and so I think
Water for everyone.
I think he was going to do that again. Yeah, you never know. I might spring for a round or two, but the January 25th date is set as well, but February 15th, I was just informed that there is a problem on that. And the problem is that we have the potential for primary on that. Okay, so could we move to, would February 8th be a possibility? Clerk, Madam Clerk, is there anything that you see that would prevent us on that? Would February 8th work for the supervisors? I'm seeing no disagreements. All right. Could I get a motion for that then? Supervisor Romden?
Move for February 8th.
And second by Supervisor Dell. All in favor of that motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carries. Then we would go, I would seek a motion to adjourn. Supervisor Dell, that was quick. Supervisor Fullenweider, second. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Opposed? No, John? Okay, motion carries. We are